Good evening, everybody, and welcome to It Came From Beyond the Mic. I'm your host, Cortez, and let me tell you, today we got a good movie. I mean, okay, all the movies I've done so far are good movies, but I have yet another good movie. But today we're talking about Murder Party. Fucking Murder Party. This movie is yet another favorite, big surprise. Don't worry, on the 5th episode, I'm going to talk about something I don't like. I don't know if I mentioned that or not already, but we're doing another one that I like. So before I get into spoilers and everything, because spoilers are inherent here, I love talking about the spoilers about everything. But before we do that, I just want to say, maybe go see this one. It's on Netflix, so it's very easy to access. So I would be happy if people watched it based off my recommendation. I don't normally, at least up until this point in time, I haven't been like, hey, go watch this movie. I've just been talking about them. And if you have seen some movies because I've talked about them, that's fantastic. That makes me happy if that is hypothetically happening. Feel free to let me know. But if not, that's fine. It's not the end of the world. But this one is on Netflix, so it's very easy to access, so I think people should see it, because this movie, I'm not going to say means a lot to me per se, but it's a movie that I like so much that I've made it a Halloween time tradition to watch it every year, at some point during October. I've already watched it this year. Hence why I'm doing a podcast episode on it. So I've already, checked that box. And speaking of Halloween, not the movie, the holiday. If all goes well and according to plan, and I can do things right, then this episode should be coming out on the Wednesday before Halloween, because Halloween falls on a Thursday this year. Not going to say what year, because it doesn't matter. But Halloween falls on a Thursday this year, so if everything goes right, I've uploaded this on the Wednesday before Halloween and not the day of Halloween, because I figure everyone will be busy, so nobody's going to sit down and listen to a podcast if you're busy trick-or-treating, decorating, going to parties, dressing up like a big clown and scaring elderly people, whatever you want to do on Halloween. Go nuts. Just don't actually kill anyone. That'd be fucked up. Don't be that guy. Please. Also, yeah, whatever. Just don't put razor blades in apples and shit. Anyway, fucking Murder Party. So, Murder Party lives up to its name because the movie is about a man who attends a murder party, because he's a jackass. He's not a jackass, he's just, he might be lonely or something, but just by chance a letter blows in the wind, a black envelope, and he opens it. What is inside? It is an invitation to a murder party. And he says, okay, I will go to this murder party. And that's our setup. That's our basic setup for the movie, is just a man goes to a murder party. However, it's the actual people that are at the murder party that makes this movie so special to me. I won't say it's shot particularly crazy. It's not like every single camera shot you see is oh, I'm gonna nut. And it doesn't need to be, because I think it's a very character-driven movie. It's very evident early on in the movie and obviously carries out. It's character-driven more than it's plot-driven, and it's fantastic because this movie's about art. So let me explain that a little bit. Our main character, Chris, he goes to this murder party, and he realizes that it's being run by people who actually want to kill him. He didn't realize that it'd be about actual murder, but alas, here we are. It's a murder party, so good job, asshole. But why do they want to murder him? It's not just for fun. They're doing it for art. They want to take his death, the act of them killing him, they want to record it, document it some way, and turn it into an art piece. But why do they want to turn it into an art piece? To impress this guy named Alexander. Why do they want to impress Alexander so much? Because Alexander has money. He has grant money that he can give the artist with the best murder piece. So they're all after that money. And it's almost like they're all working together, but they're also all competing, because they're all narcissistic in their own way. They're dumb, but they're also narcissistic, and they want the grant money, and it's so fun to see all these characters. I should probably introduce the characters by their names and stuff like that. That would probably help. So there's our main character, Chris. I already said him. Then there's Sky, Paul, Lexi, Macon, Bill. I've already said Alexander. There's Alexander's henchman, I guess. He's a Russian guy, I think. His name is Zyko. And then there's Alexander's dog, Hellhammer. And then there's also this other art guy that they mentioned pretty early on in the movie, but you kind of forget about it for a while, but it becomes relevant later. His name is Cicero. So just remember the name Cicero, because I'll get to that eventually. So I just want to say this really quick to get this out of the way, because Sky immediately becomes irrelevant to the story. She is, but is not, because Chris brings pumpkin bread to the murder party. Sky eats it, realizes there's raisins in it, and they're not organic, so I guess she's allergic to the preservatives in the non-organic raisins, so that's a detail. And then she becomes woozy, falls, hits her head on something metal, and then she starts bleeding out of her head, and she dies. So then they stuff her body in a freezer. This guy's dead. This guy's not a relevant character, really. The relevant characters that we have are Paul, Lexi, Macon, and Bill, and oh my god, they're fucking great. Because Lexi's like a cokehead, like manic pixie dream girl type. Macon is hopelessly in love with Lexi, which is just funny and sad, because Lexi's not even like mean about it, she just doesn't care because she's so in her own world. And then there's Paul, which is the most grounded character that there is. He's a photographer type, and he just wants to take pictures of Chris's murder and be on with it and hopefully get the grant money. He's the most sane guy that there is out of these weird people. And then there's Bill. Bill is the quiet type, but he's probably going to become your most favorite character just because he's dressed as like... His costume is called... I looked it up, and I think it's on the wiki or something, but his character's called the Goulsville Slugger. And you'll understand when you see it. I'm on a podcast describing visual things all the time, but Bill's great. He's just quiet, and he'll hatch in his own time. But all these characters are so fun because they think that they're the best. So I feel like it should go without saying that Alexander is an asshole, because one of the first things he does when he appears on camera is he's dressed as a vampire, and so is Paul. So he tells Paul to take off all of his vampire clothing, and Paul's basically just wearing a t-shirt and jeans by the end of it. Because Alexander's an asshole, but also it establishes that he's an asshole, and I guess his power. Also because he has Zyko, the Russian man that I mentioned, threaten Paul at gunpoint. So, you know, a gun to the face is a good motivator. This movie's so weird, though, because I think it is about art, but I feel like it's also about the dangers of being pretentious in your craft. Because ultimately everyone is a narcissistic asshole, and they're kind of up their own ass, and they don't understand that, like... I mean, for Christ's sake, they want to kill a guy for the sake of art, and they don't have a problem with that, really. Not that I find this movie morally repugnant, it's something worth noting. It's like, they're very detached from reality, and it's fantastic. In fact, I did notes again for this movie. I did very, very nothing notes. I wrote down character names and then, like, 2 quotes. But one of the quotes I wrote down is something that Alexander mentions, which I think plays into the whole pretentious kind of, you're separated from reality, you're so involved in your own art or up your own ass kind of idea. He put that the art is not what they do with Chris's murder. He says that the art is the act of the murder itself. Which is fucked up, but it's like... I think it's a good quote. It's like sums up the movie pretty good. So I think one of the best scenes by far in this movie is like about halfway through, we get this scene where Zyko pulls out truth serum. Because Zyko is Alexander's drug dealer. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. Yeah, Zyko, drug dealer. But he pulls out truth serum, and everyone's like, oh, fuck yeah, let's do truth serum. Alexander doesn't take it, though, because he's an asshole, and also because he's, spoilers, a liar. Anyway, everyone takes it, and they're all just, like, losing their minds and talking, like, out their asses, and just... I don't know what truth serum's going to do with you in real life, but it seems like they're almost high or something, so I don't know. But it's a really great character scene, because, like, this whole movie is just character scenes, but the truth serum scene in particular is such a good one. Because they even get Chris involved, and it's so fucking goofy. But my favorite part of the truth serum scene is someone asks the question that's like, who's the best artist here? And then everyone goes, me. And fuck that. Like, I love that so much. That's another, like, thing that's like, this is the pinnacle of this movie. The bulk of this movie is the audience kind of in the same seat as Chris, quite literally, where we are bound and we are just witnessing a lot of what is happening, and, you know, seeing Chris's reaction to, like, oh fuck, okay, well I'm gonna be murdered at, like, midnight, so I guess I just have to witness all these people be apeshit weirdos. I'm gonna get into, like, the meteor spoilers of the latter half of this film. It's like the last 20 minutes, but I think that is, the last 20 minutes is kind of like the most important, kind of, as it were, just because I think the movie changes, not tonally shifts, but it all hell breaks loose within the last 20 minutes of this movie, and it's honestly the more memorable part of this movie, and it's what cemented this movie as something that I would always come back to every holiday season. Everyone's doing coke, you know, except for Chris, he's tied up. So everyone's doing coke, and Macon, I mentioned him, he's dressed as a werewolf, which I didn't mention. So Macon's dressed as a werewolf, he has a wolf mask, that's just a detail. But he's drinking, whether he's on coke or not, I don't know. But he's drinking and he's covered in the alcohol, and then he goes, alright, I'm gonna go outside for a cigarette. He goes outside, lights the cigarette, and he catches on fire. And then Lexi goes outside to check on him, and then she comes running back in, and she's like, Macon's on fire! And then Paul and Alexander are arguing. What are they arguing about, you might be asking? Well, it also turns out that in this moment of the movie, it's revealed that Alexander's actually a fraud. He doesn't have any grant money. He's a fry cook. He lives in New Jersey with his parents, so he was leading on all these people. Because Alexander's plan was to have everyone make their art piece, and then he was going to kill all of them. And again, this plays into like the pretentious art kind of idea. He's like, don't you know that art is only worth anything when you're dead? And it's just all these like artists like stereotypes that are just played up to a T. Or not up to a T, but they're cranked up to 11, I mean. But all like these pretentious artist stereotypes are so funny to me, and they really come to a head at the end of the movie. So Lexi eventually gets Macon back inside. She has him extinguished, after a long period of time, so Macon's fucked up. And I refer to this part as the Wolfman transformation, because at this point, Macon was on fire so long that the mask that he was wearing has fused to his face, it's like melted onto his face. And you get to see the effect. It's all gross. He takes part of it off. It's all sticky and bloodied, and he's charred and all sorts of fucked up. It's really great. It's gross. It's truly where I mark the film as going apeshit. Is the quote unquote Wolfman transformation. I don't know. That's just what I think of it as. Alexander's revealed as a fraud, so he has his henchman Zyko. He says, "Kill Paul for me." Then Zyko shoots Paul in the head. So Paul's out of the game. Lexi's freaking out. She jumps on Zyko. She starts trying to get the gun away from him, because I think Zyko was about to kill everyone else, I think Alexander says. And then Macon, after being burnt, he gets up, sees this, and he plugs in the chainsaw. So I haven't mentioned the chainsaw up until this point, because I didn't think it was that relevant, but the chainsaw has a name. It's called Old Painless. So Macon grabs Old Painless, and he cuts off Zyko's leg. Zyko's dead, but then Bill goes apeshit. Bill starts saying everybody dies, and that's just, he goes apeshit because his art was insulted previously, so now he's really snapped, I think, seeing all the violence in front of him. So he takes an axe and kills Lexi. And then Chris escapes at this point, and he starts running, and Bill is chasing him. You'll notice, though, Macon wasn't killed. Alexander was killed. I didn't mention Alexander's death, but Alexander dies because Hellhammer, the dog that I mentioned literally a million years ago, gets into some crank, eats Crank, I guess, and then the dog is high, eats Alexander and kills him. So, he gets his just desserts. It's fucking sweet. So basically the latter half of this film is Bill chasing Chris through various locations because Bill's trying to, get a phone, call the police, yada, yada, yada. But eventually they run and they go to a rooftop party. And it's like, okay, they're at a rooftop party. They go inside the building. And it's revealed that the party is owned by Cicero, which I mentioned Cicero a million years ago, and so did the movie. But he's like the other guy who's not a fraud like Alexander was. He's the other legit art guy that they all look up to, but I guess Cicero doesn't have grant money, so they're not trying to appease him, but they respect him and recognize that he's legit. So Bill is chasing Chris throughout this party, but Macon's trying to catch up with them with the chainsaw because he wants revenge for Bill having killed Lexi. So you'll just see that, it'll be Bill and Chris's squabble, and it'll cut to Macon as he's trying to make his way, all battered and bruised, back to where they are. Chris, while running away from Bill, eventually sneaks into a different part of the party that features an interactive art display featuring a bunch of naked painted people. He's hiding in there. He's like, "Hey, does anyone have a phone?" He's searching for a phone frantically to call the cops. But Bill's just hunting him down with an axe. Eventually, Bill catches back up with him, corners him in the room, and just starts wailing on people from room to room. Macon, however, finally makes it to the rooftop while this is all happening, finds an outlet where some lights were plugged in, and then he plugs in Old Painless, and he's celebrating the fact that he plugged in Old Painless, but he falls off the roof. And then right as Chris is going to be killed by Bill, by the axe, Old Painless falls by the window that Chris is at. He pulls it up by the extension cord, and uses Old Painless to saw Bill's head in half. And this final bit is so gory and rewarding and just so fucking batshit crazy. And this whole time, in this special little art expose room, there's a sign that says art ? And that's one of the final shots in the movie, is it shows all the blood from all the victims and Bill's sawed head in half. It just shows all the blood on the art ? sign, and it's just what the fuck was this movie trying to say? And I don't think that it has no message. I think it does have a silly message that I don't know if it's supposed to be taken seriously, but at the end of the day, I just think it's a fun movie. And after all that, Chris eventually returns home, and he puts on a movie, and he enjoys some candy corn. So that's Murder Party, in a sense. The things I love about this movie are just the gore. The gore the first time I ever watched this movie was a little oh my god. whoa, but I've become desensitized over the years to where I enjoy it. Not that I like jerk off to gore. I'm not a gore fetishist in any way. But it's like, I find it enjoyable and campy, I guess is the word. I'm not as like eked out when it comes to Bill's head getting sawed in half. So I love the dumb gore effects, the weird story, the fact that it's just called Murder Party, and like the art message, if there's anything. I don't know, just don't forget about the theme of art, because next week I have another film that I'll be talking about it's another horror movie about art. So be on the edge of your seat for that one. But I think this is about all my thoughts on Murder Party. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I hope I did this movie justice, because I didn't want to pick apart the story and talk about that the whole episode, but I definitely wanted to talk about the latter half, which I know is confusing because I was using character names, and there's so many characters, so I apologize if that was weird for anyone. But I just wanted to talk about one of my favorite horror movies ever, so much so that I watch it every year. Hell, maybe I'll watch it again just because I can. Maybe I'll watch it on the day that this episode is uploaded. Because fuck, it's just, I find it to be a good seasonal film, so again, I'm going to recommend this one, because it's on Netflix, it's easy to access, give it a shot. It's Murder Party, I think it's from 2007, and it's just, it's a good, kind of out there film. Anyway, that's all I got for tonight, so I thank you all for listening in to It Came From Beyond the Mic. I was your host, Cortez, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.